It sure is awkward recording this screen format for YouTube. Like this mobile layout, that is. It's a new version of the game, right? We just had Space-Time Smackdown come out not too long ago, and we got a bunch more themed decks. So I thought I'd take a look at all of them and see what's going on inside them. I've kind of loosely looked at all of them because I've now successfully assembled them all. Um, there's this one which I actually missed from Genetic Apex last time. I forgot it even existed. This one you get from finishing the full battle tutorial, I think. I stopped after the first 6, but then I missed out on a free item each, which you get if you continue to do the other 6, and then you get this from the very end from doing them all. It doesn't look like a very good deck. I don't know how to look at it, because it's not in the, like, what do you call that thing? In the missions. So I can only look at it here by trying to build one, which I don't like the format so much, but maybe it's a little bit bigger and easier to see. Lightning deck with Pikachu and Raichu. Notably, we have no Lieutenant Surge, so there's no way to get a lot of energy onto the Raichu at once. And there's also no good way to restock the Raichu after he spends all his energy. You just got to get out with him. I think if they made Raichu right now, if they remade it, they'd probably give it a 0 retreat cost, but that's neither here nor there. We got Jolteon, which means the Eevee is later in the deck, which I already confirmed. Just 2 Eevee and 1 Jolteon. In an ideal world, you'd probably have... can I look at the cards individually? I can, right? Yeah, there you go. You'd probably have 2 Eevee, 2 Jolteon. You want your decks to be a little specialized, as I talked about last video. Then that means you want to have fewer cards and more of those cards. That way you kind of have what you need when you need it. This is not a horrible card. I actually think it's a little underrated. It's very gamebly. It's a little bit like Zapdos EX, but you don't lose 2 prize cards when it gets knocked out, and it's cheaper. It's much cheaper. Only 2 energies instead of 3. That's a big deal, actually. And Eevee is not too hard to, get it to evolve. I think this card is a little underplayed. I will say that electric decks are... all your mons have low-ass HP, which is very annoying. You would never run this just because there's so many other electric mons competing for an electric deck, like Pachirisu and Magnezone and Luxray and Electivire. Did I say that one? A lot of really nice electric types in the game, finally. And I feel like in the first session, Galvantula was kind of niche, and Zebstrika was good at one specific thing, and then Pikachu was good, and that was it. And so you were just always running those 3. And maybe Island Electabuzz or something like that. Maybe Zapdos EX, but he was kind of like a bench warmer. He was there to fill out your bench so that Pikachu could do full damage. But now you've actually got a lot of good lightning types, so this guy probably is having a hard time fitting into teams, which is a shame. We got Rattata and Raticate, which are ass, and you shouldn't have them in this deck. And then the star of the show. This is supposed to be a Wigglytuff deck. You could have done this with any type. They did it with Electric for whatever reason. If you're gonna have a Mon that needs a lot of energy dumped into it, which Wigglytuff doesn't, but kind of does. You don't want to also be dumping a lot of energy into something else, and I think Raichu is something else that you're going to be dumping a lot of energy into if you're running it. If you're not running it on a Lieutenant Surge deck, I would never run Pikachu Raichu on this deck. Jolteon is a maybe. I mean, you could run Jolteon anywhere. It's not a horrible card, but I feel like it has no synergy with what we're looking at right now. We got the non-promo Jigglypuff because, of course, they can't just put the promo one in here. You can't get that one anymore. Wigglytuff. I feel like Wigglytuff is an okay card. I got power crept by the latest expansion a little bit. This is actually very similar to Misdreavus, which is 2 energy for 70 damage, similar amount of damage, and gives you confusion instead of sleep, which is, to me, it's a side grade. I think other people might say that sleep is better, but confusion kind of puts the fear of God into people. It kind of forces them to switch. You don't have a choice with sleep. You have to stay in and just sleep. But a lot of people are going to be very unwilling to try and attack. It's still like a coin flip whether you get to attack or not. But a lot of people are going to just try and switch and burn all their energies trying to get out. I guess technically speaking, sleep is probably a little bit better mathematically speaking. But only having to spend 2 energies for Miss Magius is very attractive compared to Wigglytuff EX. And they have the same HP. I think Miss Magius is only retreat cost 1 as well. Being able to get it up 1 turn sooner actually makes a pretty big difference. Farfetch'd is probably the best card in this pack, in this deck. I don't know what Chansey's doing here. Is another extremely high energy thing. I feel like they should have just given Chansey the highest HP of all basics. Well, I mean, it might have the highest HP of all basics. No, Snorlax has 150, doesn't it? This thing should have just been fat. They should have made this thing even fatter. They could have given it 200 HP, and I would have been like, yeah, that seems right. If this was no different but had 200 HP, it'd be a pretty interesting card. I think people would actually run it. It's a funny thought. The attack is just, I feel like this is a horrible card as it is, so that's the buff it needs. 3 energy to retreat is pretty awful. 3 energy to attack is also pretty awful. Potion is fine. You would run something else. X speed is good, especially when you got the Chansey. And is there anything else high retreat here? No, it's just that. Well, X speed is good anyway. Pokeball and Professor's Research be on every deck you ever build. This looks pretty bad. This looks like worse than most of the other decks we looked at, honestly. But I think it's the first deck you have access to, so I'll give it some, cut it some slack. Anyway, let's look at the other ones in the missions menu. How do I get there? Oh, I got 4 of them. Look, wow. Not in, is it missions? Yeah, deck missions. Space-Time Smackdown. I got them all. Let's see here. Yen Mega. So we got the, you know, they're trying to use cards from the latest expansion. So Yen Mega is very notable that you can use it in any deck color, but of course they put it in a grass deck. And there is some synergy with using Yen Mega in a grass deck because it makes your Ericas less stupid. You can run Erica with Yen Mega. If you're running Yen Mega in a different deck color, you probably wouldn't touch Erica. I feel like there might be something else besides that. You can technically run Yen Mega with Snivy, but, you know, it's not necessarily the best way to run it. I think Yen Mega is a pretty damn good card. I think it's one of the better EX cards to come out of the new expansion. I actually feel like it's one of the best ones. I think this one's a little bit of a... I think people are coming around to it. I think people think it might be pretty strong. I think it's really strong. It activates really quickly, especially on particular decks. Like, you can run this thing with Manaphy, for example. You can run this thing with Dialga, and just activate it super quickly if you have a Dawn. Oddish Gloom, Vileplume have no particular synergy with Yen Mega, I don't think. I would probably run the other Oddish in this deck, but, you know, if you're going to run them... did I say Vileplume? Blossom. I'm a big fan of the Blossom card, but I made a deck that was the Blossom, and it wasn't very strong. Kind of an interesting card. Just, you know, it activates really quickly, but you need to have the whole evolutionary line. There's other cards that are just stage 1s, which are 2 energies for 70 damage. This thing does have a very nice amount of HP. And then it can attack with relatively low energies. I can't think of anything else. Vileplume, I guess? I mean, not Vileplume. What's that? Victory Bell. Victory Bell can do 60 damage with 2 energies and pulls things in. I think its HP is halfway decent too. I think it's 120. So you'd probably rather run that than this. But I can't remember if Bellsprout or Gloom are good Pokemon. I mean, Bellsprout and Weepinbell. I don't know my grass types clearly. I have 17 of this card. This must be like the most common 2-diamond. I had 1 Yen Mega for a really long time, and then I drew like 2 in a row, and it was really crazy. Now I got 3. Let's see here. Roselia and Roseraids, do they have any kind of synergy with Yen Mega? Not really. I'm a big fan of Combee. Combee's kind of fun. Just grabbing basics from all over the place. So in this deck, you're going to be grabbing Yanma, Oddish, and Roselia, and the other Combee. I think that's okay. If you got like 8 basics in your deck, being able to grab them is pretty nice. And then, you know, because you're not going to be pulling them on your turn draws, that means you're going to be pulling your other stuff faster on your turn draws too. It ends up just being really good acceleration, actually. I think, and this is one of those Pokemon, this is one of those 2 energy for 70 damage types. There's a few of these. This is Bisharp, but a grass type right here. Pretty good card, I think. A little slept on, but I probably wouldn't run it. Seriously. I feel like the odd one out here is kind of... Okay, I probably wouldn't run Oddish and Roselia here, but I don't know what I would run. I don't think the Torterra line is worth anything at all. What are the other grass types in this expansion? What grass types would I run with the Yen Mega? Oh yeah, I would run Executory X. I would put Executory X in the front. I would run Leaf somewhere in the deck, and I would put Yen Mega in the back, and I would build up Yen Mega while hiding behind Executory X. That would be the really obvious one. It's a little awkward getting out of Executory X. You need a Leaf plus, you know, the energy you already attached to it, or like a Leaf plus X speed or something like that, or the energy you already attached to it plus 2 X speeds. It's awkward. It's 3 retreat costs. It's slow to get out of. But a lot of people just leave their Executory X in to die, and you know they run like Erica and Rocky Helmet and stuff like that to make it so killing the Executory X is the biggest pain in the ass possible. I think Executory X is currently the top meta threat It's good against a lot of the new decks, like the Darkrai stuff, and it's good against a lot of the stuff before. It was already one of the best cards in the game, and it benefited a lot from like Pokemon tools because of its high HP. It just activates really quickly. It's like the ultimate like early game mon. So I would run that over like the Oddish line. What's the Oddish line doing here? And that would free you up your slots because right now we've got Rocky Helmet is it's okay. I mean, I guess you know most of the grass cards tend to have a decent amount of HP. These guys are not the highest HP you could have, but you really want a high HP Pokemon wearing a Rocky Helmet. You want a low HP Pokemon wearing a cape maybe, and then you probably don't even touch the Lumberry. If you got rid of the Oddish line and just had 2 Executory X and 2 Execute, you'd have more room for items. And like same with Roselia line, you'd be able to fit stuff like another Rocky Helmet or like Sabrina or stuff like that. Cyrus, probably Sabrina in this deck. That helps. So I think the deck is too unfocused. My pretty Combees, they're so nice. Oh. Not a horrible deck, but it could be made better very quickly. But you could do anything with the Yanmega EX. Like, that card is actually truly versatile. They have like in the hard mode, I got the gold. I finally got a Crown Rare. Isn't it beautiful? There's 1 in 500 to get one of these. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. Why did I get it of the ugliest Pokemon in the game, though? Anyway, the best way to run Palkia right now, I think, is the Vaporeon strategies. Manaphy, Vaporeon. Manaphy comes in, gives energy to stuff, everything, and then Vaporeon moves all the energy around. I'd made a Palkia deck using that, and I ran like Empoleon too, trying to make it work. And it did some stuff, but Palkia and Manaphy won most games that I won, like without Empoleon ever hitting the field. Palkia is just a good-ass Pokemon. It's one of the best in the metagame right now. Manaphy as well. These are kind of slow activating cards, apart from the Lumineon, and thus they really and the Rotom Wash. So Manaphy spreading around energies is actually it's got good synergy with this deck. You've got way too much going on. I would kill one of these Pokemon families because we got this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Whoa. Shellos and Regice and Palkia. You've got so many basics in this deck. I feel like you could just clean it up a little bit. And then we don't have many items. Once again, we've only got a Rocky Helmet and an X Speed, which is, it's not bad, it's good. But having something like Dawn would be very helpful in this deck to pass around energies a little better. X Speed plus Dawn, having like both of those is really nice because you can get your Mon out without sacrificing the energies, and then you can use the Dawn to pass them on to other stuff. I think Snover's a pretty suspect card. I think that Manaphy really appreciates... Like, you have really fast energy use, and you just want something very bulky that it doesn't matter if it needs a lot of energies. And I think Abomasnow actually has some nice synergy there. This is a card that's seeing, I think, no play right now. But the cool thing about Manaphy is that if it dies, which it often does die, if they kill your Palkia EX, they get 3 points. But if you have some other Pokemon that's not an EX that you can send in, Manaphy dies, and then that Pokemon dies, and then you still have the Palkia. So obviously I'd have another Manaphy and another Palkia in this deck. But I actually think Abomasnow is kind of cool because you can let your Manaphy die, powering up, like say a Snover, and then you can let this Abomasnow do some work and then die, and then you can still go into Palkia at the end of the day. It's like you have 3 Mons on the team instead of, well, really 2, because Manaphy's just there to power stuff up. But if you let Manaphy die and then you let Palkia die, it's like you only have 1 Mon that you got to sweep with. It's a bit like Charizard decks, really, but Charizard can pull it off. This also has decent synergy with Manaphy, I feel. The energy is the main issue with this Mon, other than the fact that it doesn't evolve. But if you can get early game energies onto this, it's quite annoying for your opponent. This is a fine recipient too, alongside Palkia, alongside Abomasnow. This works in the same way that Abomasnow works. There's other ones that would be good recipients too, but they're kind of too. You need too much of your deck. If it's like a stage 2, if it's something like Empoleon or what's the other one? Mimoswine. They would be good recipients if they were like stage 1s, but the fact that you've got to go through 2 Mons just makes it more unreliable. The big thing about decks that are full of basics is they're more reliable. Lumineon and Rotom Wash I feel like kind of do the same thing. Rotom Wash has that ugly retreat cost of 2, but it's like a 1 energy Mon. I would probably take out the Rotom Wash and just put in a second Lumineon if you're already going to be running 2 Finneons. I think Snover Abominus has some real potential. I have mixed feelings about Frost Rotom versus Regice. That's a hard call. I think both of these mons are okay in a deck like this, but I don't know which one I'd rather have two of. I would have two of one of them, but I wouldn't. I don't know which one. I kind of like Rotom Wash. I mean Rotom Frost. That's kind of cool. That works well with Cyrus. And Cyrus is already typically run alongside Palkia because of its ability to hit the bench. I was so wrong about this mon in my projections video. I was like, oh, it'll never use Dimensional Storm, but man does it. Uses Dimensional Storm a lot. I didn't realize the synergy with Manaphy. I think I've already talked about that though. Decent deck. Little things could improve it a lot more. It's just the same stuff as always. It's just like cut out the fluff and then duplicate all the cards. Have pairs of everything. But that one's better. That one's a little better made than the N Mega one, I feel. Volkner. This one is, I think I remember this one being very legit. 2 Electivire, 2 Electabuzz, but we've got the Charge Electabuzz, which is probably not the one I'd run, but I think they're all similarly viable. Double Shinx Line. They actually doubled up everything, which is great. I don't know what Ambipom and Apom are doing here. But the rest of this deck looks super solid. I would have 2 Volkner. I would just have more items. I would kill the Apom line and I would have more items. And maybe just a Farfetch'd. Maybe 1 or 2 Farfetch'd. Or 1 or 2 Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan has a very high retreat cost, which is actually attractive in a deck like this because you discard the energies, and then Volkner's trick is that he takes the discarded energies and attaches them to the thing you're going into. So Kangaskhan has like a retreat cost of 3. If you can get your Luxray up and your Kangaskhan is still alive by some miracle, you can actually retreat into your if you've attached some energies to your, you don't even need to attach the energies to the Luxray, because you can attach the energies to the Kangaskhan, just building up its retreat cost, and then once you retreat into the Luxray, you can use Volkner to attach the energies to the Luxray. So let's say you get 2 energies on Kangaskhan, and then you get like 1 energy, like, you know, it's your turn. You spend an X speed on the Kangaskhan, you switch to the Luxray, and then you put your 1 energy on the Luxray, and the 2 energies you just discarded from switching the Kangaskhan, you Volkner them onto the Luxray, and all of a sudden this little guy's got 3 energies. And then if you've got another Volkner the next turn, you can spend another energy on this guy and Volkner 2 more energies that you've just discarded back onto this guy, so he gets 2 attacks off that are 120 damage. Anyway, Luxray activates later in the game, once you've actually discarded some energy, once you've had a Mon die, or once you've done a little bit of retreating. I would definitely run 2 Volkner. I would maybe run another X speed, and I would... Cyrus or Sabrina is just useless in this deck, because Luxray can already attack anything. I would run another... No, we got 2 Evires, don't we? Yeah. I would put Kangaskhan or Farfetch'd in here. And this would be a very solid deck. This is actually a really good deck. This is way better than stuff we've already been looking at. This could be like a meta threat, honestly. I think people are really sleeping on Volkner right now. It's like a good-ass card. It's just you have to build your decks in a very specific way to use it. That one, A+. You should try this one. Make it yourself and play it online. Notoriously, Luxray is a pretty rare card to draw. So, you know, a lot of people are just putting off because they don't have 2 of it yet. Same with Electivire, but at least we got the promos for that one. Supreme Blast. Oh, it got the Fairy family. I think this strategy is a little iffy. There have been some people who have managed to make it work. So, Azelf is just a standalone card. 20 damage to a target of your choice. It's like a worse Hitmonlee. It's Hitmonlee with less HP and lower damage. But this attack is still useful, even if it's worse. Unfortunately, Giovanni doesn't work with this kind of card. Attacks. It only works on attacks that hit the opponent's active Pokemon, I think. So you can't just use this to kill a Magikarp. But it does work. It has nice synergy with Cyrus. Is Cyrus in this deck? No. Look at my Rare Dawn. I drew that recently. Oh, it's so nice. What was I going to say? I think I don't have the Rare Mesprit yet. That'd be nice. I'd love one of those. So the gimmick with this is once the other 2 are on the field, you can, on the bench, you can use this thing's attack. But it's very awkward getting all 3 of them up and getting off this Supreme Blast. I do think there's very good synergy with Giratina. Giratina's gimmick is that you can switch it around for free, and then it's a backup attacker as well. You can switch it around for free as long as there's one energy attached. You can find time to stick on that one energy. And it also soaks up hits for you while you're trying to set everything up. 120 HP is very good for a basic. So you probably, you use Mesprit's attack, and then probably you X speed out or something, and then you go into this guy while sticking energies onto Mesprit or Yuxi or Azelf or something like that. Yuxi just attaches energies to a Mesprit. Azelf too, I guess. But Mesprit is probably what you're doing if you're running a deck like this. Yuxi is utterly useless unless it's on a Mesprit deck, and obviously Mesprit is utterly useless unless you're using both Yuxi and Azelf. So, it's common to see all three together, but it's also, I think Azelf by itself is quite good too. I don't know what Starly and Staravia are doing here, but I don't know what you would run with an Azelf deck, with a Mesprit deck rather. 160 damage is super high, but the attack is just, it's very telegraphed and it's very awkward. I mean, it's not so telegraphed because you can just play bench Pokemon and then win, but you know when the Mesprit has 3 energies. You can see it. And it's discard all energy too, so you can't even overload it with energy if you have some time, which is annoying. I love that you can pluck Pokemon tools. That's really cool. I don't think that's very useful, but it is very novel. I've never really looked at this card. It's not very good. No, it's okay. For being an Evolvemon, 2 energies for 40 damage is workable. But obviously you'd rather be like Togetic, where you have the same HP, but you only have to spend 1 energy to get that damage. I seem to recall this one being good, but I'd rather have Pidgeot. The opponent can't retreat. That's cool. That's kind of fun. It's like Arbok or Galvantula, but stronger, but the higher energy costs. I would rather have them, just because they activate faster. Only needing stage 1 and only needing 2 energies is so much more attractive. But this thing's high HP is quite nice. And then you only have the retreat cost of 1, which is kind of cool too. I might try and build a deck around this little guy, but I don't know what I'm going to run with it. But I used to use the Pidgeot plus Arbok deck quite a lot. Maybe you could do Pidgeot plus this guy, that sounds kind of fun. Pidgeot for the phasing and this guy for the trapping. You just have a pigeon deck. Pokemon communication is very nice when you're building stage 2 lines, such as this Staraptor. And it's also very nice when you've got mons that need to work together, such as the Mesprit line. I would definitely have 2 Pokemon communications in this deck. Dawn, I think, is essential for Mesprit. And same with X Speed. I don't know. I think you might have to. I think you might have to kill the Starly line in order to get more X Speeds, more Dawns, and then another Giratina for sure. If you're gonna try this strategy, I think you need 2 Giratina, and I think you need 2 X Speed, 2 Dawn, and probably 2 Pokemon communication. You need to be able to get the cards you need in a hurry. The X Speed is important so that you can you can put your energy on Yuxi, and then still switch out of it into the Mesprit, and then maintain the energy on it so that you can Dawn it. So Yuxi does its attack and puts an energy onto Mesprit, and then next turn you put the energy onto Mesprit, X Speed, so that you can switch into Mesprit and then use Dawn to get the Yuxi's energy onto Mesprit. And that whole little combo will give Mesprit 3 energies in 2 turns. And then you get your 160 damage attack. The problem with 160 damage attack is that sometimes you're hitting something where you don't need 160 damage. How are you supposed to hit something small in this deck? If you took out the Starly line, what are you going to do against a mon that's 60 HP basic? Are you going to just kill it with repeated Azelf hits, or are you going to stick 3 energies onto Giratina? It's very awkward. Doesn't work too well. I think it's a suspect deck. Licky Licky EX, they put it into a Togekiss deck. You could really do anything with Togekiss. I mean, not with Togekiss, with Licky Licky, because it's colorless. I find this to be kind of awkward. You have no cards to encourage switching, which means if you're locked into a Lickitung at the start of the match, if you only draw... How many basics do we have? 2 Togepis, a Rotom, Cresselia, Aipom. You got a lot of basics. You probably won't only have Lickitung by itself, so there's that going for you. But if you were going to make this deck more concise, you would have fewer basics, and then you would be more likely to draw only Lickitung. So you'd have to put Leaf or something into the deck too. And that would probably be better still, if you just took out basics and put Leaf in. Again, the Ambipom line is what is it doing here? So that's just bog standard basic. What's this guy do? I forgot. It's been too long. That's quite decent. I like that it's only 1 energy. Very chaotic card, but that can be very disruptive. The fact that you can get up to 80 damage turn 3 is kind of cool. This is actually a pretty interesting card for a rushdown deck. Might have some merit. Might have some merit. I think Lickitung, Licky Licky is a great card, but having to go through Lickitung really holds it back. And the fact that it needs so many energies. 4 energies to attack, 4 energies to retreat. You're in it for life. Once this Mong hits the field, you're in it for life. 140 damage half the time. It's okay. 100 damage minimum is quite nice, but like, you know, considering you're going to get this at endgame, it's like, what do you do if there's a Palkia sitting in front of you? It's got 150 HP. Now what? You got to get 2 heads, and if you don't, he just, like, murders you. You actually live through his Dimensional Storm, for what it's worth. People aren't really running Giovanni anymore. There's too many other good trainer cards, so Giovanni is just kind of kaput. There are still some people who run it, but it's you'd rather have like stuff like Dawn or Cyrus or stuff like that. Tools. It became really hard to use some of the old cards like Potion just because of stuff like Cape, or like Blue because of stuff like Cape. Cape is generally better than Blue, although you can run them together. Cape is sometimes better than Potion. Rotom is pretty cute. Big Rotom fan. Hard to read this card. It does how much damage? 50 damage if they have a tool. I knew it did more if they did have a tool. You know, that's good versus, like, I don't know, like, 50 damage is... If they have, like, a cape or something, then the 50 damage is going to break the threshold. It's like, oh, that'd be great if, like, you know, Manaphy tried to put a cape on, but actually it would still be good versus Manaphy. I got myself, because Manaphy's weak to lightning, so it would one-shot Manaphy anyway. But it wouldn't one-shot Manaphy if it didn't put on a cape, so yeah, that's something. It two-shot stuff, you know, you can two-shot Skarmory, right? Skarmory's what, 80 HP? You put the cape on, it's got 100, and this guy is doing 70 per hit to it, yeah? Two-shot Skarmory through the cape. It's kind of cool. Still can't one-shot Skarmory. I think Rotom is kind of sus. I think the Togekiss line is really good. I think you would only run it with Cynthia. Running Togekiss without Cynthia is ridiculous. Cynthia powers up Togekiss's attack by 50 damage, which is huge. Really big. Togekiss does 110 damage with 2 energies on its first attack if you're running Cynthia, and then 170 on its second attack and beyond with you running Cynthia. I'd run at least one, and probably 2 Cynthia on any deck with Togekiss. But I would have built the deck around Togekiss. They built it around Licky Licky. And I think a better ally for Licky Licky would be something with energy acceleration, such as Manaphy or Dialga. Those are the only types of energy acceleration that work with colorless. So you'd run one or the other. Most people are doing Dialga if they're trying to run Licky Licky. Dialga Licky Licky it's not horrible. I don't know what the best way to run Dialga is. I think people typically do Yanmega and Mew these days, because those are EX cards that don't require particular types of energy, so they don't mind getting metal. And then there's obviously Metal or Bastiodon as metal recipients. And I think there's like one other kind of notable one. I don't have my metal recipients unlocked. Oh, it's Wormadam Trash of all things. But I don't think that's very good. This deck, it's too unfocused. It's trying to do 2 different things at once, and it needs to do either one of them better. Don't love that deck. Weavile. Sneasel Weavile, of course. Poochyena, Mightyena. These are not good cards. 60 HP Bite, it's bog standard. Weak to Grass is kind of cool for a dark card. This is like, this is just a worse Arbok. You do have a different weakness. Arbok is weak to fighting. But this is Arbok without the trapping effect and with 10 less HP. It retreats cheaper. That's nothing. I'd still rather have the trapping effect. I would not run this. If I was going to run anything, I would run Arbok with that. But you want a Mon that can get some chip damage, I feel, if you're going to be running Weavile. So this is a Mon. Spiritomb is a good Mon because it can get some chip damage. It does 10 damage to all enemies. I don't know if it's... Like, people are often running it with Weavile, but I don't know if it's actually a good combo. I feel like it kind of isn't. The really obvious thing to run with Weavile is Darkrai. And Darkrai Weavile is the best way to use Weavile, but the problem is it's not the best way to use Darkrai. So a lot of people are kind of moving away from the Weavile decks, even though it's such a cool card. Oh, look at it. This little claws. I want the rare version of this one with the hunting this lineup. One day. What else? What's that Mon? Honchkrow? Honchkrow would maybe be a good ally. Because Honchkrow can hit bench Pokemon, and then you can Cyrus them onto the field and their damage so that you can hit them with Weavile. Might have a little bit of synergy there. I'd probably try and squeeze Honchkrow into this deck instead of, I don't know, Scorpio, Drapion, or whatever. You want things that can take pot shots at your opponent's bench. You could even do like a Water Dark deck with like Greninja, or even a pure Dark deck with Greninja if you want. The Greninja line works decently even if you don't have Water energy. But yeah, I think if you were going to make this deck seriously, you would want 2 Darkrai in here. And then you would just want to kill a lot of the other mons. I think one thing that people do is they run Sneasel, Weavile, Darkrai, and no other Pokemon, and I think that's bad. But it's hard to figure out what mon needs to be there. I think that's too few basics. If you just have 4 total basics in your deck, you're gonna brick or whatever they call it. You're gonna mulligan. But like, what goes in besides that? Farfetch'd. Like, there aren't that many mons that can like easily hit the bench like that. For whatever reason, we got Lopunny in here. What's this guy do again? 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench. That is synergy. That's some synergy right there. This plus Weavile plus Cyrus. Okay, I'm seeing the light. This deck is better than I thought. Put another Lopunny in here. Take out the Scorpio line. Take out the Poochyena line, and I don't know. Put the little bird guy, Honchkrow. I don't know. Probably just take out the Spiritomb line. And for God's sake, 2 Cyrus. Rocky Helmet has nice synergy with Weavile. Because they attack your Weavile, they take damage, and then Weavile does its bonus damage to it. Just so we're clear, Weavile does plus 40 damage if the opponent's already hurt. So your 1 energy 30 becomes 1 energy 70. Weavile is an early game card, and it's hard to get that early hit in the early game. It still has good synergy with stuff like Greninja or whatever. Anything that can cause prior damage to the opponent. It's very useful when, you know, you're just already doing 70 damage. You don't need the 30 damage hit. Excuse me. This one could be a reasonably good deck with relatively little adjustments. I think obviously Darkrai, but like Buniri is there's potential, there's hope. It's a cool concept. She's another Cyrus. I don't know what they're doing with Team Galactic Grunt. I haven't made a video for the worst card in the new expansion yet, but I feel like Team Galactic Grunt is a serious contender for the worst card in the new expansion. What are we doing here? 1 random Glameow, Stunky, or Croagunk from your deck into your hand. So it's like a Pokeball, but it only gets 3 specific Pokemon. And it almost has reverse synergy if you're running all 3 of them. It just becomes a Pokeball. It's nice because you can put 4 Pokeballs into your deck instead of 2, I guess. And they all work with Dark types. Glameow's a normal type, but they all work with Dark energies, so you can run them all in the same deck. None of these mons are very good. Glameow has some kind of novelty to it, and Croagunk is decent. Stunky is decent. We got all 3 of them in here? Yeah, we have all 3 of them in here. So this is the way they intend you to use this. It's hard to even think of how you can improve this deck, but I think the deck is just suspect in the first place. This is a horrible basic. I hate 10 damage. 70 HP is kind of cool, but I hate 10 damage. This is okay. It's just Tentacruel but Dark type. I don't love 2 energy retreat cost, but it's, you know, it's fine. It's workable. You'd probably just bring this thing in and keep it in. Poison is a decent effect. It's really doing 60 damage, but that's not that much. I think Croagunk and Toxicroak have the same attack. It's just Toxicroak is stronger. You want a lot of basics if you're going to run a Toxicroak, because it works like Pikachu. And for what it's worth, its average damage is actually very similar to Pikachu, despite the fact that it's a basic. Of course, Pikachu has more HP. And doesn't need to evolve. But it's quite nice to have this on a mon that's only worth 1 point. The opponent needs to kill more things. I think of the mons that Team Galactic Grunt pulls, this is the one that's good. And it's especially, it gets powered up, even if you're having a lot of Pokeballs in the deck has appeal, because you want to fill out your bench with this mon, because it does more damage for the more bench Pokemon you have. So obviously you want to bring, you want to fill out your bench as reliably as possible. How many basics? 8? 1, 2, we got 6. We only got 6. But we do have 2 Pokeballs and 2 Team Galactic Grunts. So we are going to fill our bench with that. But I feel like it's going to be Toxicroak doing the heavy lifting in this deck. Average damage 60 is great. Possibility of... 80. Average damage of 80 is great. Possibility of 160 is awesome. Possibility of 0 is regrettable, but probably won't happen that often. Unfortunately, 160 also won't happen that often. A lot of chaos in this card, but I think it's actually very potent, especially for how fast it activates. Wish the HP was a bit higher. But this guy, you know, he's a stage 1. You do what you can. Let's check out Glanio. I think, yeah, this one, that's quite novel. 40 is a lot of damage for 1 energy, but it's just a worse version of Island Mankey. And then this one, this is quite disruptive. I think that's quite fun. It's a fun attack. Even if it's not the best attack, it's fun. The problem is, this will probably be kind of coming in the late game, not an early game card. And a lot of people just kind of use up their cards like as soon as they get them for a lot of things. Like if you have bench Pokemon, if you draw basic Pokemon you're trying to bench, or you draw evolution cards, you'll probably evolve relatively quickly. There are some cards you want to save until you need them, like Serena or Cyrus, obviously. And there are some times where you don't want to play a card right away because you might need it later, like a tool or something like that. But if there's oftentimes with bench Pokemon, you're just going to play them, you know, once you need them. And if they get plucked from your hand, you don't really care. And because of that, you won't have that much of your deck left by the time this card is kind of active and on the field. If you're shuffling, you know, you're having your cards shuffled back into your deck, you've got a decent chance of drawing that card right away if you only have like 3 cards still in your deck. So it's a really novel concept with this card, but unfortunately it's just, it's a little slow. I think it could do some work potentially. The fact that you get to choose is awesome. The fact that you get to see the opponent's hand is awesome. If you know it's like, oh, I'm dead to a Sabrina, and then you see a Sabrina in the opponent's hand and you have them shuffle it away, that can be really nice. I don't know. This card has some very nice potential for disruptive effects. I think we have all fighting weakness. Yeah, that's weak to fighting. That's weak to fighting. So that's regrettable, but not a huge deal. Most decks have like all the same weakness, or maybe 2 if they're lucky. Red card is ass. Mathematically, red card is just a bad card. I've had opponents pull red card on me, and it helps me as often as it hurts me. Not a good card at all. Don't run that. I wouldn't even run Mars here. They have Mars too, actually. I don't know what I would run here. Egg speed, I guess, to get your Toxicroak onto the field so it can start flipping. Dawn, so you can move energies from stuff onto other stuff. I don't know. I think this deck is really suspect. I think Grunt is very suspect. That's like as good as you can make Grunt work, I feel. And I still feel like it's not very good. Infernape is very good, I feel. So we have Magmortar. I don't have 2 of this card yet. I would like another one so I can kind of play with Magmortar decks, but unfortunately I haven't drawn it. Where do you get it? Palkia. I think this is quite novel. People used to run Arcanine EX. I haven't actually played with a card that burns yet. That sounds stupid to say. I think it does 20 damage and then they flip to remove it, right? Is that how it works? I don't know. If it does, then this is actually doing 120 damage, and I feel like it's very competitive with Arcanine EX, which was doing 130, right? And then it was damaging itself. This only rewards 1 point, and that one rewards 2. So this one is very attractive for that reason. The problem is Charizard decks have shifted away from even having multiple Mons. Charizard decks these days literally just run Moltres in the Charizard line, and no other Pokemon. So this guy is kind of fighting for a team spot with nothing. He's fighting for a team spot with a Pokemon Communicator or whatever. But I think he has potential on Moltres teams. This is not a Moltres team, though. You can still get him activated with Magmar, I guess. Slugma Cargo, I think, is a little slept on. I think you could run these in a fast fire deck actually pretty well. 1 energy and then 2 energies is very attractive. And that is, you know, Burn is... If Burn is as good as I think it is, which I think it is. 120 HP is awesome on a stage 1. This is a pretty fun card. I would run this with a Rocky Helmet and hope I get some, like, Rocky Helmet damage plus burn damage and all that. That sounds like a fun little combo, that's all I'm saying. I really like that card. Not much synergy with Infernape. I feel like Infernape, the thing is, it discards all its energy, and then you've got to retreat it or else dawn an energy back onto it. You really want your team to not have super high retreat costs like Magcargo. Slugma, even Slugma is 2. This Magmar is 2. This is so stupid. I think these have reverse synergy with Infernape. It's like if you spend all your energy on Infernape, you've got to go into like another Mon, but like what if the Mon isn't set up? And then you can't even like go back into the Infernape again. I saw an Infernape deck that was using Dodrio, and I thought it was kind of cute, because Dodrio has free retreat cost. So once your Infernape attacks, it can just retreat into Dodrio, which can attack right away. And then, of course, Dodrio has free retreat cost, so then you can go back into Infernape the next turn. Nice little synergy. I feel like you have to do stuff like that, or like Rapidash, the Apex Rapidash, or like what else? There's particular cards that you can kind of flip flop between that make a lot more sense. I think Infernape is an awesome card. It hits really important benchmarks with 140 damage. 140 is like the new 120. That's the number you want to hit to like kind of be secure in your ability to kill things easily. And that kills Executor because of weakness. The thing has 160 HP, so this guy just clears it in one hit, which is awesome. Unless it wears a cape. The thing about Infernape that's so strong is the 170 HP, you can only really hit it. It usually just kills whatever it comes in on. You can only really hit it in the following turn, and there's a good chance it just killed your Mon that was set up. And you might not have another set up Mon right away. So, like, yeah, you can, attack it with your other Mon, but what if you're only doing, like, 40 damage or something like that, and then it's just going to retreat the next turn? I mean, it does open it up to Cyrus a little bit, but this Mon is, I think, a fiend versus other EX cards. This is like the new EX killer, the same way Mew was last version. Really fun card. 170 is just so nice for what this card is trying to do. It's so hard to 2-hit KO this guy. But I would not use this deck at all. I would literally not use this. I would be maybe using Mercargo Slugma on like kind of fast fire decks, like the Rapidash stuff. And I don't even know if it's good for that. And I would be running Magmar on like Charizard decks. And I would be running something entirely different on Infernape decks. I feel like there's Heatmore is like a card that has Curious Synergy with Infernape just because it attacks with low energy and does decent damage as an early game little guy. I would run 2x speed so you can go into Infernape easily and quickly. And I would run 2 Dawns so you can give energies to Infernape. Just get Infernape to attack. Because if you have Dawn and you have Mons that have energy on your bench, which is usually only possible if you use X speed or if you just had turns to build them up, you can just get those energies onto Infernape. So Infernape uses its attack, discards all its energies, and then the next turn you put an energy on Infernape, and then you Dawn an energy from your bench onto Infernape, and then you have 2 energies so you can just attack again. So if you have that combo, you can fire off that 140 every turn. So I'd run 2 Dawn, 2x speed, kill all the early Mons, all these guys from the deck, and then put in stuff like Rapidash or Dodrio or Heatmore or stuff like that. I don't know. That deck is. I feel like that deck is poorly put together, but they're just trying to show off the new fire types from the new expansion, but they don't have synergy with each other. Cynthia. So we got a water fighting deck. This one is very awkward. They just tried to make Cynthia's cannon team, but it's so weird. It doesn't work. Lucario needs 2 fighting energies, so the chances of getting that on a water fighting deck is going to be very annoying, and it's not even a good card. The main thing this card does is make your other fighting types better, and it's good for that. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of good recipients, but as soon as there are some good recipients, this is going to be one of the best cards in the game, I feel. But like right now, people are just giving it to Primeape, which is a genetic Apex Primeape, and then Hitmonchan and Kabutops, like Mons that are the kind of suspect recipients. Itself, it powers itself up, and another Lucario will also power it up. So it says 40 there, but it can go up to 80. We got some Lucarios going. But you're not even powering anything up in this deck. Like it's just there because Cynthia has a Lucario. It's just a cannon Mon for her. Gastrodon fortunately does work with a multi-type deck. Very awkward if you don't draw your water energy while you're trying to attack with the Shellos, but you only need 1 water energy for the Gastrodon. 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so it's like, we just looked at a Mon that was like the same exact effect as that Lopunny, but it's stronger. But that energy requirement is very annoying if you're not running it on energy acceleration. Obviously you could Misty this thing or you could Manaphy it, but that's not what this deck is trying to do. So this guy is very misplaced on this deck, but like everything in this deck is misplaced. Spiritomb getting a bunch of damage on stuff for what? 10 damage on everything for what? You don't have Cyrus. This is the worst one we've looked at by far. Garchomp is a pretty interesting card, and unfortunately you're forced to, if you're trying to use Garchomp, you're forced to run this double energy with the water fighting. That's already decent damage. You wish it was a little higher because it requires 2 different energies, but that's decent. But this card is awesome. 100 damage, 150 with Cynthia, and then you can draw an extra card so you can rapidly cycle through your deck. But what are you even trying to draw in this deck? Garchomp activates so late in the deck. I can see a lot of cards I would want to discard, like the Riolu and the Lucario, and the everything, everything. I don't know what I would run with Gibble line. I guess Manaphy would be a good friend, so you can give it water energies. I don't know who the good friends are. I think people are running it with like Marshadow. I think Marshadow needs fighting plus normal for its attack, fighting plus colorless. So you could run fighting plus water. You know, you could run it in a dual type deck. It would be inconsistent. There's no fighting type energy acceleration except Brock. So very awkward. Passing fighting energies around. You have to actually run a fighting deck in order to use Garchomp. Unless you ran it alongside Onyx and you like, you know, donned the Brocked fighting energies from the Onyx onto the Garchomp. I would never do that. Sounds stupid. The fact that you only need 2 energies is very attractive. If you're just lucky with your draws, you can get that really quickly. It's a very suspect deck. This one sucks. It's not even worth discussing. Pachirisu. There's a really funny Pachirisu deck going around that only has 2 Pachirisu and no other Pokemon. So you just have 18 trainer cards. This did not do that. Magnezone is one of the best cards in the game right now. The thing about Magnezone that's so attractive, you'd run it with the other Magneton, and this is why. Magnezone sets itself up without you having to really attach energies to it. Like, maybe you put 1 energy on it. Maybe 2. Maybe you're putting energies on it while it's attacking. But as long as you're going through the other Magneton, it's sticking energies on itself. So you can just have it on the bench, and it activates itself while you're activating something else. You can be putting energies on your Electrode. Well, that one only needs 1. Or your Pachirisu. Meanwhile, also Magneton generating energies. That's awesome. That's a really cool thing that Magneton does. And the fact that it works on any deck color is very powerful, too. And the fact that it's only 1 point to knock it out is huge. And the fact that it has more HP than any other electric type is huge. It's literally tied for the most HP of lightning types right now. Along with Luxray, I think, and Electros, I think, which also both have 140. And then Zapdos EX has 130, and everything else is like 120 or less. This Electrode, good card. Especially good with Pachirisu, because Pachirisu can attack right away. The other Electrode also worth using, maybe. I don't know what Buniri and Lopunny are doing in this deck. We got no Cyrus or anything like that. Was it 30 damage? 20. I didn't realize it was that weak. Alright, maybe it's not as good as I thought. It'd be good if you're running alongside Cyrus, and even then only kind of. Killing 2 things at once is kind of attractive. I'd rather do 20 and then 20 to a Benchmon than I would to do 40 to one thing, I think. Most of the time. It depends. A lot of tools. You have 1 cape, 1 helmet, 1 Lumberry. Pachirisu, I mean, you know, he needs a tool for his attack to work, to do extra damage. So you'd really want, like, 4+ tools. I'd probably take out the Lumberry. What's the Lumberry doing here? I would have 2 Rocky Helmets, 2 Giant Capes. The silly deck that Pachirisu is just 2 Pachirisu and, like, you know, nothing else. That one has 2 Lumberries as well, just to make sure you have the tools quickly. But even if you had Lumberry, like, I feel like it might... There's a real possibility of waiting for the cape, or, like, waiting for the helmet. Not horrible... I think the synergy is not there, but the cards themselves are okay in this deck, apart from Lopunny. I would take Lopunny out. Put in another tool, take out Lumberry, and refine the tools. Everything else is okay. This is, like, workable. I think this could be okay. A lot of people run Pachirisu and Pikachu together. And I think they're okay together, but I feel like Pachirisu is a little slept on using it in other styles of deck. It is a good ally for Pikachu, but you can use Pachirisu with other stuff, and it does kind of what Pikachu does without having to go for the hyper basic decks. I don't know. It's got more versatility than people are giving it credit for. That's an okay deck. Miss Magius EX. We're using it with with Dusknoir. I've been messing those up a lot recently. I only have 1 of this card. I'd love another 1 of this. So I thought that you could choose how much damage you're taking, but you actually take all of it. So whatever you do this on is fully healed, I think. Or at the very least, they recover 130 HP. It says all. It's allowed to kill Dusknoir. I now know the mechanics of this move. Dusknoir can have 10 HP and it can still move all damage onto itself. This thing is like really, really weak to Cyrus because it often takes a bunch of damage and then, you know, the opponent can just pull it in and kill it. But I think it's actually a very good card, and I think people are sleeping on it. The fact that it's a stage 2 is the main weakness. And maybe Duskull and Dusclops aren't very good. That's absolutely normal and not bad. This is quite bad. 3 energy for 50 damage with 2 retreat. That's horrible. If the opponent, like, Sabrina's you into this, it's a nuisance. It's like, okay, now what? Get it out? Not easy. Drifloon and Driftblim are pretty funny cards. It's literally like Slurpuff. It's like the same card, basically. It's got a different weakness, that's it. Slurpuff is weak to metal, this is weak to electric. But they're both 100 HP, 60 damage, 2 energies. Not horrible. Not interesting. We got the Lopunny again. Why do so many of these have Lopunny? I guess because they need colorless mons to fill them out. Because there's not enough monotype. All the sample decks have like colorless mons. So they're just doing with Buniri and Lopunny what they were doing with Rattata and Raticate and the other ones. Look at my pretty Mismagius. I have 2 of this card. I don't know how that happened. I only have 1 in the normal version of this guy. Pretty interesting card. I was talking earlier about how I think it's better than Wigglytuff. I think it is better than Wigglytuff. I don't know what deck I would run it with. Right at the beginning, I ran this with a Togekiss line, and I was having a lot of fun with it. Togekiss plus Mismagius. Kind of disruptive. I don't think it was super amazing, but it was winning. It's hard to say what Mismagius wants. Like, it kind of is a standalone card. Like, you just build it up, and then as soon as it hits the field, you, like, just confuse things. And then you hope that, you know, they don't get their heads or whatever. It's quite bulky, especially with the fact that the opponent's going to be trying to hit you through confusion sometimes. 140 HP is workable. 1 retreat cost is very nice, but of course there's Cyrus who can pull you back into the field. Pretty interesting card, not bad. 2 basics, 2 basics, 2 basics, 2 basics. We got 8. It's more than you need. You could just kill Buniri from this. Rocky Helmet, worth acknowledging. Dawn worth acknowledging. X-Speed worth acknowledging. All the standard ones that you always want. Is that the last one? Nope. A couple more. 3 more. But no. We got Gallade. So obviously we got the 2 Ralts, the 2 Kirlia, and the 2 Gallade. Well, the 1 Gallade. Obviously you'd run 2 if you're running this deck sincerely. You have to run these particular versions of these cards if you're running Gallade because they're colorless. You would not run the other ones. Actually, Ralts does 10 damage for colorless energy, the other Ralts, so you could run the other Ralts if you wanted to. Gligar and Gliscor, I think these are kind of interesting as Lucario recipients. And we do have Lucario in this deck. I think that has potential. It's kind of annoying that it doesn't stack with your flips. Like, this does either 40 or 60 with Lucario, or 0. You'd prefer if you were doing like at plus 20 per hit, but that'd be pretty strong. This is very low damage for an evolved Mon. Averaging 20, that's bad. It should be more coin flips. Why is it only 2? We should be getting at least 3 coin flips for this guy. Like, this is just worse than just the 1 energy. There's like a lot of Mons that are just 1 energy that do 40 damage. Or like, you know, Primeape does 50. The Island's Primeape. For 1 energy. Like, what are we doing with this guy who can get 40, like, tops? Primeape, this guy has a little bit more HP than Primeape, and he's got a different weakness, which is kind of cool. But I would definitely run Primeape over this thing. I would run the other Primeape over this thing, too. Either Primeape is better than that guy. Forget what I said when I said it was kind of novel. No, it's bad. Him on top. Going from 50 to 70 with Lucario. It's not amazing. It's okay. 70 for 2 energies is workable. And the fact that it's a basic is nice. But also, it's kind of like... It's still a stage 1 because you've got to have the Lucario as well. It's even worse than a stage 1 because you've got to have the Riolu as well to get that damage. But getting 50 if you don't have all that stuff is still workable too. I think this is probably not amazing. There's a lot of cards that are like this. This one gets credit for being a basic. It's kind of good and bad. If you're ever forced to lead with it, that's horrible. Because it's crazy retreat cost and crazy energy requirement. But here we have 2 Riolu, 2 Hitmontop, 2 Gligar, 2 Ralts. I think it's okay to have 1 Regirock when you got that many basics. But you should have fewer basics in this, and you shouldn't have Regirock. I do really like that. That in the early game, Exoskeleton is quite nice because most Mons on their early turns can't do more than 20 damage. But like you're gonna feel like a fool, you know. The Staryu slaps you for 0, and it's like, ha, you can't hurt me. And then the next turn, the Starmie slaps you for 70, and it's like, okay, getting two-shotted. Not great, not great. And then you still need like 2 more turns to attach energies. Like even if you have the energy advantage, Starmie still like bodies you. And that's a pretty extreme example, but there's a lot of stuff like that. This just matches up badly against a lot of things. I can't think of a single mon where it's like this is really just gonna screw it over. I mean, I can think of a lot of mons that it's gonna screw over if it's just like any Pokemon, but like I can't think of any like core strategy where this is just like, you know, obviously you're gonna be trying to build this on the bench, and the energy requirements of this deck are actually pretty low. Gallade only needs 2 energies, and it only needs 1 until it gets to its final form. Rio only needs 2, or 1 then 2. And then him on top needs 2, which is a little pricey. Not that pricey. Gligar only needs 1. So you have time in this deck to put energies on Regirock, I think. And it is okay once it's set up. 100 damage, you want it to be like 120 or something, really. 100 is a little disappointing because that's not one-shotting a lot of stuff. But at least Regirock has decent bulk. It's functionally got 140 HP if you're trying to kill it from full. And if you're not trying to kill it from full, if you're trying to wear it down, it's a lot better than that. Whoa, I don't want to get Flare on the Regirock. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to click it. Not a bad deck, but I think there are other... You could just swap out a lot of these fighting mons for other fighting mons, and it would be so much better. Riolu does work with Gallade, because Gallade is a fighting type. I thought this attack was a little disappointingly weak, but actually I played with it now, and it's very decent. Especially because it has so much HP. 170 is a lot, I don't care what anyone says. If someone tries to say 170 is not a lot, slap him. A lot of EX cards saying you have 150. And the attack gets pretty powerful. It'll 2-hit KO most everything. And the things that it doesn't 2-hit KO probably have no energy attached, and probably can't do anything to you. Here we go. Now we got the Murder Murkrow. I thought I had synergy with the Weavile, and I don't think it has as much synergy with the Darkrai. Well, no, I think Darkrai's a better card. Once again, we got the Starly line for whatever reason. We got no Cyrus. Cyrus has very nice synergy with both Darkrai and Honchkrow, because you can get pot shots on things very easily and then force them in later. 50 damage to 1 target. You get to choose who it is, so it's a better version of Lumineon. It's cost the same. It's doing the same damage, but you can actually hit the active Pokemon. Lumineon retreats for free, and this thing retreats for 2 energies, which is very unfortunate. Frequently, you're going to want to retreat this guy, too. Mightyena is not a great card. I'd rather run Arbok. We got the regular Darkrai. Again, I think this card is utterly useless except for the fact that it sets up Cyrus. 10 damage to everything is just terrible. But things being damaged allows you to pull them in with Cyrus. So without Cyrus, that card is just, it's so stupid, it's bad. Darkrai. 100% sleep chance. Coin flip for sleep is really bad in this game. There's very few cards that actually do that. It's like Hypno. But guaranteed sleep is good. Status ailments are good. Sleep is a good status ailment if it hits. And this one, it's a coin flip. Well, it's the normal 1 coin flip and not 2. 3 energies is awkward. 2 energies to retreat is awkward. I have mixed feelings about this card's efficacy. I don't think it has a whole lot of synergy here. But they just kind of have it because it's a Darkrai deck, and they couldn't just put 2 Darkrai EXs in here because they don't want any decks that require you to have 2 EXs. But you would obviously run 2 Darkrai EXs in this deck, and you would probably put a bunch of Cyruses in, and you would probably not have the Starly line. Probably just put Arbok in instead of Starly, because it does the same thing faster. And just kill Poochyena. Do something else, I don't know what. Hell, you could have the Toxicroak in here. There's room for him. I don't know. Is that our last one? No, we got Dialga. Let's see what we got. We got the Nosepass, Probopass. I forgot about him. I mentioned Wormadam Trash Cloak, but I didn't mention Probopass. So 2 energies for 30 is absolutely abysmal. It's workable, you can do it. It's, you might occasionally ram if you're running this card. This one's quite good. 3 coins, 50 extra damage for each heads with a baseline of 30. So 80 or 130 typically is your damage. Your average is going to be either of those. That's awesome. That's good damage. Decent amount of HP. Sets up relatively quickly in terms of being a stage 1, but sets up very slowly in terms of the amount of energy it requires. But that's where Dialga comes in. This has the ability to put 2 energies onto a Benchmon. Onto the same Benchmon, unlike Manaphy. So obviously you want to run it alongside things that need lots of energies. If they can get that attack off twice, then you can get, like, you know, 4 energies onto something pretty quickly, such as that Probopass, such as a Bronzong. This one's quite novel. I love the card art. Anytime it's like a real object made of clay or whatever, it's just so cute. 60 is really disappointing, but 120 HP plus minus 20 damage is, well, it's a lot like that Regirock we just looked at. Do we have Registeel in here? No. We do have Heatran. I've seen people use Registeel in decks like this. This is my first time really looking at the Heatran card. 110 damage is pretty good. Doing 20 damage to yourself is regrettable, but 120 HP means you can probably get off that attack a few times. This deck is super awkward if you don't lead Dialga. I think this would be a horrible deck to actually use because you're so reliant on getting Dialga early. Same with Bidoof and Bibarel. The least they could do is give us a normal type that required very little energy while you're waiting for your Darkrai to show up, like a Farfetch'd or something like that. But instead we got Bidoof and Bibarel, which require 2 energies to do anything. Bidoof is a pretty funny card. I think a lot of people who are like beginners really overrate that attack. Half your opponent's remaining HP rounded down. On a good day, that's going to be doing like 70 damage, which is not even that much for 2 energies. And then chances are, if you're hitting a very high HP mon like that, they can do your 60 HP either in one go or, I don't know. I'd rather have the consistent 60 damage to Bibarel, obviously. Like, people just always talk about the idealized version of this card, but, like, you know, there's good odds you're going to be attacking something, you're going to be doing like 30 with it. It says remaining HP too, so it's like hard to actually kill something with this. If you don't draw your Bibarel. This deck only has 1 Bibarel, it's very awkward. If you were going to seriously try and make Bibarel work, you'd have 2 of them, but you shouldn't try that. Yeah, this deck is too slow. I think this is probably the worst deck we've looked at. If it had 2 Dialgas and less fluff, it would be good. And it would just be okay. It wouldn't even be great. Dialga, a lot of people are talking about nowadays, is kind of a disappointing card. It put Metal on the map. Metal now works, but it doesn't work that well. It's still too slow. It's nice because you put your 2 energies on Dialga, and then those same 2 energies are now going on to something else. I mean, technically it's 2 new energies, but you didn't lose any time, is my point. And then if you get 2 Metallic Turbos off, then it paid for itself and then some. And then you also synergy with Dawn, because you can Metallic Turbo something as soon as you have 2 energies, and then on the next turn you can take one of those energies with Dawn plus attach one for your turn, and all of a sudden you're attacking with 100. I don't know. I think these aren't the right allies for Dialga, but obviously they're just using whatever metal types they introduced. But even the metal types we already had aren't great recipients apart from Melmetal. I think the most effective Dialga decks are using Skarmory, Dialga, and then just any kind of decent recipient for metal energies. Such as Licky Licky, such as Bastiodon. Even these I don't think are that good. Melmetal is the really obvious one. Skarmory, Dialga, Melmetal. If you have Dialga and you don't draw another basic, that's very awkward too. And it's not like Skarmory needs a lot of energy. It needs just 1. So if you only have Dialga and Skarmory, you're going to feel kind of stupid sticking all those energies onto Skarmory. But probably... I don't know, it's awkward too, because oftentimes Dialga kind of gets worn down while it's spamming Metallic Turbo. 30 damage isn't a whole lot. Palkia does it for 1 energy. So it's kind of a turn ahead of you. It's done 30 more damage in the same amount of time, basically. And even that's not a super fast card. It's okay. It's faster than many. But the opponent knocking this out, and then having 2 points, and then you having to do the rest of the game on your last whatever else you've managed to build up in the time that Dialga was alive. It's awkward. Anyway, overall, these decks have been pretty good. No, they're okay. All of them, really obvious improvements can be made to all of them. I thought they were going to be like much better put together than the decks we already looked at from Genetic Apex, but they're like about the same. Really, they're worse because they benefit a lot from Genetic Apex. They just used what they had, and that was all. But now you could put stuff from Genetic Apex or Mythical Islands into these decks, and there's some where there's really obvious synergy, like Palkia and Vaporeon, but they couldn't show that off because they're trying to only use the new cards. So that really hurts the demonstrations. Really hurts the viability of some of these decks, like having like the Bellossom line in Yanmega, for example. Yanmega's one was okay. Palkia's one was good-ish. Volkner was like amazing. I think the damn it, they're winning. The Mesprit one is pretty suspect, pretty bad. The Licky Licky one was really bad. Weavile one was okay. Team Galactic Grunt one looked pretty bad. Aaron Franape one looked pretty bad. Cynthia one looked horrible. Pachirisu looked okay. Miss Maggie's looked okay. Gallade looked okay. Darkrai EX looked kind of good. Daga looked pretty bad. Overall, not great. Dex. My secret mission. I've already cleared it. Why is it still showing up? Is that just here forever? I got off 155. Isn't that beautiful? My one crown. My Palkia. Palkia, my beloved. Ah, this one was faster to record. I must have been more concise.